From the Lapsed Fan Wrestling Podcast, it's This American Work, one McMahon story told week by week. I'm Nasal Gas. You may have seen in the last week a story that's been sweeping the internet. There's been a leaked script on the message board Reddit where a lot of wrestling fans tend to coalesce around interesting sort of behind-the-scenes leaks, different documents and things like that, that they come out and they give us a glimpse into the what appears to be spontaneous world of professional wrestling, but isn't so spontaneous, and in fact at times is planned down to the very word. We know this because of scripts that have leaked for the promos or interviews that the wrestlers do, and a recent leak, so to speak, that got a lot of attention this week was some linear notes, if you will, some liner notes for WWE television announcers. It's what they can say and what they can't. It's what they are suggested to think and what they're not. And it's pretty much the scripture as delivered by WWE owner, impresario, CEO, Vince McMahon. We're proud to welcome Vince McMahon to This American Work this week to discuss what is behind these notes that have so prompted, parody, lampooning, questioning, envy. This week in the pro wrestling sphere, the Lapsed Fan Wrestling Podcast presents This American Work. Vince McMahon, thank you so much for agreeing to the extortionary invitation.
Nasal.
And I want to start with kind of a foundational question before we sort of dive into the essence of the text. What is the role, Vince McMahon, of a wrestling television announcer?
Well, that's a good question, actually.
Well, thank you.
The role of a television announcer or a commentator on the WWE television shows is not that dissimilar from a sportscaster or a newscaster such as yourself. It involves the emotional reactions, the legitimate emotional reactions of our employees, the announcers, reacting to the action in the ring. I implore my announcers to be spontaneous, to be emotional, and to kind of play it off the cuff and to react naturally as they do to the action and the entertainment that is happening in the ring.
Vince, I have to ask you, this laundry list that we'll get into of do's and don'ts seems to run, directly counter to what you just said. This is the opposite of spontaneity. This is rigid control. If I was an announcer,
I should maybe clarify. I encourage controlled spontaneity.
Excuse me?
I encourage controlled spontaneity.
Well, I'm floored by that phraseology. I don't know what you mean, but perhaps if we engage with the text, if we look at these leaked notes, we can get a better idea. First of all, Vince, what was your reaction? And suddenly, it's sort of these things just leak out of nowhere.
Well, I mean, Nasal, who do you think leaks them?
I suppose someone working in a behind the scenes capacity for you, maybe.
Well, I suppose that he would indeed work behind the scenes with me. That would make sense, because I tend to work behind the scenes with myself.
Well, okay. Very well. Let's start with what I'm presented with here is the sort of the first page. It reads as follows, and I'll read this.
Sort of a instruction manual to how to be a good announcer.
You write, or at least whoever the author of this is, wrote, manufactured passion is the kiss of death. The TV audience of today can detect forced passion, and when they do it, it's almost impossible to get the fans to suspend their disbelief and become immersed in the product. No one would do a great movie or a sporting event that has personal meaning. Okay, manufactured passion. Talk to me
Yes.
about that.
Well, I mean, it's passion that is, machine made. Not made by the feelings that you have. I mean, think about it in terms of making a movie. That's what we do. That's what we do in WWE TV. We make movies. Okay? So you're given a script. Now it's your job as a performer to create and involve your own emotions into the words given to you. Now, is that so hard? I don't think so. I do it all the time. I do it in all of my business meetings, the board meetings. I got nothing to say to those assholes. I just have someone write some shit up and then I deliver it with emotion. It's not manufactured. It's true passion that I have just in bullshit words.
Okay, bullshit words. An interesting choice of phrase there. You know,
I mean, don't you deal with bullshit? Come on, you're in the news industry. It's all bullshit.
well, I mean, what do you mean it's all bullshit? I
Oh,
have to
come
challenge
on.
you there.
There's no truth into what you do. You're just there to entertain me. Isn't that right?
Well,
News is all about ratings. It's all about how many people are listening, how many people are watching, how many people bought that dirt sheet on the corner from the little newsboy.
are
I
you
understand.
are you suggesting that I'm engaged when I over enunciate words and when I take fake thoughtful pauses in my speech pattern and when I basically perform a text under the guise of conveying information that I am also engaged in manufactured passion?
I'm just saying, you're in the entertainment industry just like me.
Oh, I'm in the news industry, Vince.
News is very entertaining.
Well, let me ask you to, if you could, read
Yes.
the next paragraph. I'd like to hear it in your words and then your explanation.
Yes. You should not use verbiage written by a producer. Our audience can always tell when an announcer is reading and it is a total disconnect. You should take the suggested verbiage and make it into your own words. Now try this. Read the copy, turn the page over, and tell me what you are supposed to be conveying.
Okay, so why is that important?
Well, because we have a direction. I've got a vision of what my program, what my entertainment vehicle is. And I want to make sure that even though you may not be using the written words that one of my producers or one of my TV executives like my good friend Kevin Dunn hand you, that you have the intelligence, that you have the ability, that you have the knowledge, and you have the guttural instinct to take those words, throw them away, and create new ones that say the exact same thing.
Now, why would you go through all the trouble of having all of these writers to script every last word of a wrestler's promo if the ethic you're espousing here is to actually not have complete fidelity to every last word, and then in fact it's a shortcoming almost to rely on that?
Because the thing is, nobody really knows how to do it right but me. Everybody out there has to have their own their promos, what they're said scripted, because they don't know how to do it for themselves. I do. I go out on TV. I don't have anything scripted. You'll notice that the ratings pop every time that I'm on the damn television.
But okay, but wasn't that sort of the the way of the wrestling world in the decades before? You kind of...
Well, I'm going to stop you right there. See, that's the difference. I'm not in the wrestling business. I'm in the entertainment business.
Excuse me?
I'm not in the wrestling business. I'm in the entertainment business. I told you we make movies, we make entertainment.
Well, we'll get to that, I think, because that's one of many parts of your psychology, I think, Mr. McMahon, that are sort of explained in these notes. We come now to a section called do's, that is to say, as opposed to do nots or don'ts.
Yes.
In the first one, take the high road. Don't be crude, especially with the divas.
I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. We don't do bathroom toilet humor on my television shows, on my movies. That's not the way we work. We're classy family entertainment.
If you are working on a taped show,
yes,
watch it ahead of time and prepare! Exclamation point.
Yes. I think that one is pretty self-explanatory. Not everything's live. Watch it. It's not like we don't have a million different tapes hanging around in our goddamn vault. We've got pretty much the entire wrestling library. And all I'm asking you is to go back and look at the last week's show to prepare.
Make your own notes on superstars and keep it up to date.
Yes. Yes. They need to know the characters. They need to know what they've done. Because certain characters have had a very twisty, crazy different storylines and a whole different history. Take Kane, for example. He's a classic example. He came in here as The Undertaker's brother. Right? Turns out, he has burn marks all over his face. Turns out those are all psychological. Yet, in his high school years, he murdered his girlfriend and then had sexual relations with her after she was dead. Then, as the story went on, turns out he is actually a corporate employee of my company. I mean, you see these things, you have to take notes. You have to learn about these people because they're not just characters, they are people. And they've got complicated histories, and we need to know in detail what's happened to them so we can keep our own history straight.
Sit up straight on all cameras. Dress professionally. Talk to your partner and glance at the camera more often than not, depending on the moment.
Yes. Yes. What do you want me to say? Is it not self-explanatory?
Okay. The use of topical info as analogies and examples is effective, if not forced. Now, what do you mean topical?
Well, I mean, if there is a scene going on about maybe there could be some sexual intimidation, I would want one of my announcers, say Michael Cole or JBL, to discuss about, hey, this situation very much resembles Bill Cosby giving women quaaludes and trying to rape them. It educates people. It gives them sort of what you do. It gives them a little bit of the news along with their entertainment.
Please be aware of major international events like the earthquake in China. This is what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
The tsunami, the Mumbai terrorist.
Because what we want to have happen is, say, you've got a Brock Lesnar, right? There comes times when he has suplexed or F5'd the Big Show or some of these bigger performers, and sometimes the ring breaks, and so I want someone to say, "Look at that! My God, this is just like the earthquake in China."
But you also say, to that point, you don't necessarily have to call them out, but don't inadvertently insult them and others sympathetic by using a move's name or an analogy that could be hurtful. Terrorist incident, they mention, be sensitive to people and areas. So you say that, but at the same time, it sounds like you want them to hold back on that as well. Why even mention it?
Because what we try to do is we try to involve people from around the world. We are seen in over 500 million countries each week.
But by evoking tragedy in their country?
Well, I mean, we're not doing the terrorism. We're just making people aware that terrorism happened in Mumbai, and it just happens to be very similar to the fake actions going on in my ring.
This one I'm interested in. Fully understand the history and heritage of the business as it gives what we are doing today more credibility.
You see, what we like to do is I want to make sure everybody is aware of what's going on in the business. The history of the WWE, even Turner's organization. And what I like to have, why I like people to do that, is because I want them to learn, so they know what not to bring up. I want people to stay current. I want people to know about what's happening today. I don't believe about living in the past. I believe in burying the past, burying it deep, so that nobody can find it. You understand? And so I want them to know about the past, so they know what not to talk about on my entertainment vehicle.
You also write, have fun. You are a fan. If you don't like this, why should anyone else?
Absolutely. Because if I'm sitting there and I'm not enjoying, this is why I don't go on, I'm not a commentator anymore, because I got bored watching my own product and I could feel it. And I think this shit sucks. What I'm fucking watching sucks. And I can't actually be out here selling this shit. So fuck it. I'll let JR, he seems to have some fun watching this bullshit that I'm promoting. I'm just going to go in the back and I'll watch it from there and I'll tell people what to do, and you never know. Maybe I'll get lucky and get a blowjob.
Now, the notes also, the leak notes take on an interesting twist here. It's not just do's and don'ts. It's not just you talking to announcers. It's also people at WWE communicating to others what it is you've told them, or ground rules that you've explained, and they're sort of putting it in memo form to others. Here it says VKM, which of course is Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Yes.
You does not want to use the phrase granddaddy of them all for WrestleMania going forward. He feels it makes WrestleMania feel old. So, granddaddy of them all, longtime WWE fans would know that's sort of a calling card for the show. Why did you suddenly decide that granddaddy of them all sounded old?
Because do you have a grandfather?
Yeah.
Do you have a grandfather?
Yes.
He's old. You understand? He's probably going to die soon. I had a grandfather and he died. He'd be about 120 years old right now. I don't want to think of that. Granddaddy speaks of mortality and death.
Well,
shut up. My show isn't dead or old. It is current. It is the biggest show every year in entertainment. It is the show of shows. You understand?
Well, I mean, respectfully, Vince, aren't you a grandfather?
I'm going to cut this interview off if you don't stop being smart ass. You understand? I will kick your goddamn teeth in. Watch it, asshole.
Okay. Fine. It also says, we never want to use the term choked out or the word choke at all.
Yes.
We have renamed Undertaker's submission the triangle submission hold.
Yes.
What's wrong with choke?
Well, we had a little, a few years back, we had a little bit of bad press when one of our employees, a member of the talent roster, killed his wife and his son by choking them out. We did a focus group, and the word choke just wasn't in. So we decided to change it to be sensitive to those who have been choked before and those who watch our programming, and when they see kind of a choke or a move like the Undertaker's triangle submission hold, and they may feel uncomfortable if we mention that it's a choke hold, that they're choking. So we don't want to turn our fans away by making them feel uncomfortable.
What about the physical threat that you just directed at me? Isn't that not in keeping
No,
with?
no. See, the thing is, I didn't threaten to choke you. I said I'd kick your ass. See, kicking your ass doesn't imply death. Choking implies that I am going to try to kill you. See, big difference there.
Now, here's another note. Per KD, which is the aforementioned Kevin Dunn, executive
Yes.
producer for a long time at WWE, one-liner, it says, please never use the words title changing hands again. Titles are won or lost. They don't change hands.
Well, I mean, titles don't even have hands to change. So, I mean, it makes no sense to begin with. It's a stupid phrase. Now, people have been using it for years, but I don't understand it. It makes no damn sense. A title is a fucking prop. It's a fucking piece of tin that a guy wears around his waist or drapes over his shoulder. It doesn't have a hand to change.
Um, okay. Here's
Yes.
a note conveying one of your directions here. Per Vince, do not use references of five-star match or match of the year by commentators if the match meant nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Vince wants to talk to the announcers and tell them to stop reading the dirt sheets.
Yes.
Announcers, it says, need to understand what makes a match a good match.
Yes.
So, first, for the uninitiated, Vince, what are the dirt sheets?
The dirt sheets are just that. They're these bullshit newspapers and online fucking web pages that think they know about the insides of wrestling. But I'll tell you right now, nobody knows the insides of what goes on in the WWE unless I tell them. Understand? Nobody knows. Nobody knows anything unless I tell them. And so that's the thing about it. They read these newsletters, these little mom and pop, you know, things. And they see, oh look, this guy, oh, this guy said it's a 5-star match. He doesn't know what a 5-star match is. I created the match. I booked the match. I know if it's a good match or not. I'll tell you if it's a match of the year. In fact, if you want to know what a match of the year is, you just watch the Slammy Awards. That's the best match of the year. And that's a fact. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. So that's the thing. I don't want my announcers to be getting the wrong information from unreliable sources.
It says here, describe the WWE superstar. If you describe who the guys are, it gives them life and character as opposed to being a champion. Say the arrogant world heavyweight champion Jack Swagger, etc. Always try to be more descriptive with the WWE superstars as opposed to just calling them the WWE champion John Cena or world heavyweight champion Jack Swagger. If you are more descriptive, you build their character.
Yeah.
I don't get it. So if you just say arrogant before Jack Swagger, that builds their character?
Yeah, it means that he's just cares about himself. Because the thing is, in this day and age, in this world, in this universe that where we watch wrestling, champions don't mean anything. A champion is not descriptive enough. You know, back in the day, people used to think that being the WWE champion was enough because it implies that you're the best in the business, that you're the best in the world. Doesn't work that way anymore. Titles don't mean anything. The fans don't care about titles. They care about characters. They care about people. They want to relate to somebody. They want to relate to an all-American American like Jack Swagger. You know what I mean? So you have to give words that are a little on the simpler side, that describe that Jack Swagger's not just a champion. He's an arrogant son of a bitch. He's so fucking full of himself. I mean, my God, what an asshole. And he's the champion. That's who I have to look up to. Asshole, Jack Swagger.
Okay, this next one, from your daughter. sent by Steph, May 19th, 2009. She writes, Vince would like to reinforce to all announcers not to say the referee didn't see it when the referee doesn't see an illegal action. It makes the product feel cheap, like we're in grade school. It is okay to say the referee's vision was impaired or the referee's vision was blocked.
I mean, come on, you watch our show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how the because even if the referee didn't see something, he at least could have fucking heard it. Am I right?
Well,
I mean, for God's sakes, suspension of disbelief is just thrown out the window when, oh, look, the referee didn't see it. Of course he fucking saw it. But maybe if he saw it, maybe he had something in his eye. So maybe he did see it, but he didn't know what he saw.
wait.
You know what I mean?
No. I mean, what is the difference, the substantive difference between the referee didn't see it and the referee's vision was impaired?
It's a very big difference.
Really?
Huge difference. Because the referee not seeing it implies that the referee might be blind. And then we don't want to be insensitive to our blind audience. All they can do is hear the wrestling. But if you say that it's impaired, it means, well, maybe, like I said, he got an eyelash in his eye and he was trying to fish it out while he was refereeing the match. And so he did not happen to see, he saw something, but it wasn't evident enough to cause a disqualification or question the superstar's actions. There's a very big difference.
Now, there's some notes as well, not from you, but from someone named Kasama. Do not use the word...
Yes, Osama bin Laden.
Okay. Do not use the word hatred, it says. No. For example, Triple H and John Cena's hatred for Randy Orton. Well, why not the word hatred? I mean, isn't that what a lot of your matches are sort of built around? Is the idea that these wrestlers hate each other?
Well, I mean, we don't promote bullying. We don't promote hatred. We promote conflict. We think conflict is good. But I don't think it would be appropriate, for example, for me to say, I fucking hate you, Nasal Gas. You piece of shit. I want you to die. It's not appropriate.
Now, another...
But if I said, you know what, Nasal, you and I have got a problem, my friend. I've got trouble with you, son. You and I, we're gonna have words, and it might lead to a match in the ring for the belt. That's got a lot more depth because there's it's not so black and white. There's shades of gray.
Let's skip ahead to don'ts, and there's some listed here. Do not say a talent does not care about winning the match. Everyone should care about winning matches. If the superstars don't care, why should fans? I have to say, Vince, when I read this, I thought this might not be a real document because the way you book Raw and SmackDown every week, guys win and lose at a 50% clip, with the exception of one or two guys. Guys lose just as often as they win. I mean, what's the deal here?
Well, we have to keep a balance. We don't want a guy like Cesaro or Dolph Ziggler to get too over. You understand? They serve a purpose of being just over enough. If you get too many wins, then you're a little too over, and you might take the spot of one of our chosen men. And it's not right. It's not in our business plan. It's not my grand design.
I'm sorry, too over? I mean, isn't getting over a good thing in wrestling? Why would you want to, stand in the way of that? Why would you want to limit that?
It's good if you're meant to be over. You understand? You not everyone deserves to be over. You have to earn it. You have to have that it factor. You have to go for that brass ring. And that is what's key, is attaining that brass ring.
Okay. You write no cursing.
No.
That one makes sense. Although, wasn't the whole Attitude Era built around you almost saying shit all the time? Like, or the wrestlers, like almost saying shit, but just saying ass and bitch?
No, we never swore. Never said that. I mean,
What about Steve Austin's middle fingers every single week on TV?
We blur them out, not only on TV, but for the live audience as well.
Excuse me? For the people in the building?
Yes.
How'd you do that?
Not supposed to talk about it, but when fans get concessions, they have been drugged. All the concessions at our shows that involve Steve Austin, all the concessions are drugged, and if the fan chooses not to get a concession, we inject them with a needle.
Next up,
Yeah.
don't call blood.
Yes.
For people who don't know what that means, don't call when a wrestler's bleeding. Now,
No.
I always thought it was a huge thing in wrestling, a huge kind of dramatic storytelling tool if a guy bleeds. Why would
you're absolutely right. It is in wrestling, but in family entertainment, clean family entertainment, blood is a big no-no. So it's best that if someone does happen to bleed, that the announcers and the commentary team ignore it and act like everything is just fun and dandy. Just having a plain old match.
But this
no
is,
blood here.
But Vince, this is highly physical activity. Guys get busted open on a regular basis.
When you're watching football,
isn't it insulting to the audience to not point that out? Is my point. What's the harm, or what's the harm in only calling, hard way blood? That is to say, blood that isn't planned to be spilled. But what's the harm in that? I mean, everyone can accept that that's just kind of the risk. I don't think any parent is going to be upset about that.
I'll say this: if we don't call it on TV, didn't happen.
Does that go for everything?
Yeah, pretty much.
It says here, don't say Edge is busted open. Instead, say Edge got his teeth knocked down his throat.
Yes.
Or Edge's nose must be broken. How is Edge got his teeth knocked down his throat?
I don't care. The thing is, he's not bleeding.
What?
It distracts from the bleeding. Oh, well, wait, he got his teeth. Let's look for his lost teeth down his throat. Then you don't see the gusher that's happening on his forehead. That's dripping all the way down his body. You ignore it because you're concerned as a viewer with watching something else.
Okay. It says here, be careful when anointing anything or anyone the greatest of all time. Keep comments and observations believable and plausible.
Announcers shouldn't have opinions or thoughts. I want them to be free thinkers, but they can't think like that. You understand? They can't say that someone's the greatest, because if they say Cesaro's the greatest wrestler they've ever seen, then people might believe that, and people might start cheering for Cesaro instead of cheering for Randy Orton or Roman Reigns, and that's not right. We want to keep everyone neutral. Everyone's on the same playing field, on the same level. Don't want someone to get too over.
That's still throwing me for a loop, but okay, perhaps we'll get back to it. I want to jump to one of my favorite parts of this. Fascinating. And we'll go kind of lightning round here, kind of like word association.
Yes.
I'll just read the words to avoid, and there are a few of them. And I just want you to, first thing that comes to mind when I tell you these words, and so the audience should know, these words are banned for WWE broadcasters to use.
Yes.
Belt strap.
My father.
The business, our industry.
Pain.
Feud.
Turner.
War.
Turner.
Performance, performer, choreograph.
Patterson.
House show.
Not making money.
Backstage.
Sex.
pro wrestling. Pro wrestler. That's right. You can't say pro wrestling or pro wrestler on your show.
It's entertainment. We don't do wrestling.
What are they supposed to call the wrestlers?
Superstars. Entertainers. That guy. Him. Her. I don't fucking care. They're not wrestlers. Wrestling is for old farts who have nothing better to do on a Saturday night. Wrestling is for country bumpkins who can't tell what's real and what's not. Wrestling is for bottom-feeding animals. Entertainment is for everybody. The high class. I shit on pro wrestling.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go back to one quick. Belt? I mean,
Yes.
we don't have belts or straps. We have championship titles.
Yes.
What's the problem with calling it a belt? I mean, it's a belt.
Because my dad used to beat me with a belt that he called his strap.
Oh.
Makes me feel lonely and small.
Let's move on from that. Acrobatics. You don't want your announcer saying acrobatics. Back to word association. Acrobatics.
Yes. It's for pussies.
Interesting. DQ.
We're a classy organization. We don't need to do abbreviations. Disqualification works just fine.
Talent.
Cattle.
Here, a list of inside terms. So just,
Yes.
sort of respond with one word for all these. Heel, babyface,
No.
blown up, shoot, rib, mark.
I don't know what those terms are. It doesn't fall under the category of entertainment.
Hospital. You can't
Yes.
say hospital. It says use medical
It's too extreme. It's too extreme. People think hospital, they think death. And we're trying to avoid death unless it's necessary. So what we do is it's a medical center. It's where you can receive medicine. Not a hospital where people die.
Now, I can't just let that hang out there. You said, unless it's necessary. Talk about
Yes.
that. Talk about that.
Well, every now and again, something happens. And we're not responsible. That's all I have to say.
Faction. You don't want your announcers to say faction.
No, we don't have factions. We don't do that. We did a little bit out of desperation. I won't lie, to kind of counteract the Turner's idea of the New World Order. But a faction can rise up against the authority that created it. I won't have that. I will not have any faction rise up against me. Never.
This one really threw me for a loop.
Mm-hmm.
We never wanted to use the term, the title is on the line. Please use more creative terms like the title will be defended, etc. What is the difference between the title is on the line and the title will be defended?
We don't have time to have these little, these peon terms like, oh, the title is on the line. No. The title will be defended. It's about honor. It's about who's the best. There's a huge difference in the way in the terminology. The title is on the line is for lowbrow bitches. The title will be defended is for high class individuals. And we do, like I said before, high class entertainment.
Pretty wild one here. Dated October 16th, 2008. Please do not use the term sports entertainment. Going forward, please use entertainment in place. Now, sports entertainment is sort of a term, Vince, that you're credited with coming up with in exchange for calling this pro wrestling. Now it's sports entertainment. You're the father of that term in a lot of ways. Why would you suddenly want to drop the sports from the term?
Well, like a father who's had a disabled child, I decided to kill it. Understand? Because we no longer do that. We're just entertainment because we make movies. We create entertainment. There's no athleticism involved with what we do. There's no sport to it. It's all fake. Sport implies that there is competition, that there are people trying to win something. My talent, they're not trying to win anything. They're trying to entertain. They know who's going to win or lose before they even get out in the ring. Hell, some of them even know who's going to win or lose before they get to the arena. They're trying to make sure that you have a good time. Doesn't matter who wins or loses, as long as you had a good time.
It says here, and this word comes up a lot, layout, right?
Yes.
Only react to pre-tapes, that is to say, highlights of previous matches or whatever. Only react to pre-tapes if you have something important to say. If you don't, then lay out. Let the audience absorb what just happened. When should an announcer lay out, Vince? What does that mean in your mind?
It means that if they don't have anything intelligent to say, they should shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear it. It's got nothing to do with the audience and let them absorb. That's just some corporate bullshit that we had someone put in to make it sound a little more, politically correct. The bottom line is, I don't want some jerk off like Michael Cole saying bullshit if it's not going to be intelligent or that I want to hear. So I say him to shut the fuck up.
So is there... tell me if I'm wrong.
Uh-huh.
When I read the word layout in all these notes, you're saying shut the fuck up?
Yes, I'm actually saying shut the fuck up or I will lay you out.
One thing that caught my eye, you asked your announcers to describe the environment.
Yes.
And one of the notes says, big bumps hurt a lot. Big bumps. That is to say, bumps, when a wrestler falls in the ring, it's called a bump. Big bumps hurt a lot. If your brother was thrown through a table, how would you describe it? What emotions does it bring up? Seriously, do this exercise.
Yes.
Can you set an example? Can you do that exercise for us?
Well, yes. What I actually did was, when I used to be the lead announcer for the WWE television programs, I wanted to get an idea of what, how I would react if someone actually was taking a big bump, because seeing one of my superstars do it didn't matter. They can get hurt and they can land on their head. I don't fucking care. I'll just find somebody else and have them take their place. They're dime a dozen. But if I wanted to act like I was caring about it, I said, well, if someone fell on their head, how would I feel? If someone I actually cared about, I got to feign emotion here for someone that I don't give two shits about. How would I do that? So I used to have Stephanie suplex Shane through tables and on the hard floor of our kitchen. I think one time she gave Shane a pile driver in the bathtub, and so I got some emotion. Granted, I don't think Shane is well, Shane's not really my family anymore. He's been disowned, but at the time it gave me a direction to focus my emotions. Like say, oh well, Hakushi just gave Bret Hart a spinning heel kick. I remember when I saw Stephanie throw that vase right at Shane's head. Yeah, I remember how I felt during that. I was a little nervous, so I'm going to get nervous about Hakushi.
You also ask your announcers, ask questions, it says. It says, everyone hates being told what to think.
Yes.
For example, John Cena will never trust Randy Orton. Should be, do you think Cena could ever trust Orton? Everyone hates being told what to think.
Yes.
Is there not irony there in the fact that this appears to be pages upon pages of telling your announcers how to think?
Well, I'm telling them how to think. I mean, they're free to come up with the words that they want to use. They have the freedom to say whatever they want as long as it's in the very tight, narrow confines that I create. It's all about freedom. We promote freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of thought. That's what the WWE is all about. And that's what we used to call it back in the day, when it was the, before we decided that we were entertainment, we were the WWF, and we back in Stamford, and Jim Barnett and I used to call it World Wrestling Freedom. That's what we did, and then it was worldwide freedom, because we promote freedom. So the thing is, to promote freedom, you have to control the people who are your voice. So that's what we do. We find it important that the announcers act like they have freedom of thought when in fact they don't, because what they need to do is let the audience know that they can think for themselves.
Another thing you say, no one cares about what you, the announcer, thinks. For example, I think Cena is great. Put it on the fans. E.g., boy, the fans really go crazy for Cena. No one cares about what you thinks.
No.
Wrong syntax intended. It should be think. But that aside, how can you tell your announcer that no one cares what they think when you're also relying on them to, communicate their thoughts?
It's a good question. Now let me turn the tables a little bit and let me ask you a question. Do you tune into Raw to watch or to listen to Michael Cole?
No, but
No.
I would tune in for better announcers.
Do you tune in? No, right. But okay, fine. We'll try this one. Did you tune in to Raw to listen to JR?
Yeah, I would say yes. I would say I did.
You're wrong. No one tunes in for the announcers. You can have anybody go in there. That's why we have that Byron Saxon. Doesn't matter what the fuck he says. No one's there to listen to his bullshit.
Now, whoa. If no one cares what he says, then why do you script everything they say, or at least restrict? I mean, you care what they say.
It's like being given the proper medication. It's being told that, oh, wait a minute, this is the guy. Hey, boy, the fans are really cheering for Roman Reigns. No one cheers for Roman Reigns. He's a fucking Samoan buffoon. Nobody gives a shit about him. But if we tell Michael Cole to say, everyone's cheering for the fans really dig this Roman Reigns, and then we pipe in some crowd noise, the fans at home are saying, well, holy shit, this guy's pretty good. I'm going to put down my cash when the WWE comes to my town. That's what it's all about.
This one, we talked about it before. It got to come back to it. How can you tell your announcers to speak off the cuff when the list of things they can't say is so long? There's no way to have fidelity to it unless you have it right there in front of you.
That's not necessarily true. I could say this. Let's say the producer wrote me a script and said, hey, Nasal Gas is a fucking asshole. I'd say, oh, all right, well, that's what the message is. They're turning it across. Let's see what we can do with that. All right. Turn the sheet over and think about it for a moment. I'd say, you know what I discovered recently? I discovered recently that Nasal Gas is a real jerk. Really rubs me the wrong way. See what I did there?
I didn't.
I thought for myself.
It didn't sound particularly compelling, though. I mean, and just to be fair,
Well, first of all, then you don't know what the fuck compelling means, because that was very compelling. I was compelled to call you a real jerk.
Well,
and I didn't use vulgar language either. See that?
Well, I'll have to grant you that. you certainly don't seem in general to have a problem with it, but every now and then you seem to take a stand, which I find interesting, and I think we'll be able to get more into as we talk here. There's a section called Embellish, and I don't need to go through every one of these, but there are some that caught my eye. When you write, embellish the action, be descriptive, Triple H's head just careened off the announce table, or Jack Swagger's gut-wrench power bomb is like being thrown from a 12-story building.
Yes.
I understand embellish, Vince, but is there a difference between saying, Jack Swagger's powerbomb hurts and Jack Swagger's powerbomb feels like getting thrown off a building? I mean, isn't that more than embellishing? Isn't that
Well,
just...
the thing is, you never know. There could be an audience member who's fallen off a 12-story building, and there's a connection there. So, wow, oh yes, Jack Swagger's gut wrench powerbomb could hurt. We can connect maybe with a few more audience members on a deeper level, on a more cerebral, emotional level. You're just saying somebody got, hit in the face. Doesn't give me any kind of connection. Somebody got, oh my God, somebody used his damn ham hock fist and buried it inside John Cena's dome. I followed that one all right.
Our fans, you write, are always interested in what happens in the locker room or away from the arena. And in the locker room and away from the arena, I should note, are in quotes.
Yes.
Announcers have, this says, the unique ability to be our fans' eyes and ears and to use this to enhance characters. For example, quote, I saw CM Punk at the Waffle House this morning. He treated the waitress so nasty it was embarrassing. Or, Edge told me in the locker room earlier today that he has a game plan for Orton and we won't believe what it is.
Yes.
First, this sort of answers a long-standing question I've always had watching television, is why the announcers always say, I spoke to this guy earlier today and he told me this. I never understood why the fuck they do that. And that this is apparently why. Why is it? What does it add? I wonder, in your sense, to the fans' enjoyment of the show if the announcers tell them that they saw CM Punk at the Waffle House?
Well, it creates depth. It creates 3 dimensions. It's not just seeing, oh, look, he came to the ring and he beat somebody else. No. CM Punk is actually like that outside at the Waffle House. He's not just a jerk when he's on television. He's a jerk when he's eating a meal by himself. Creates depth. It creates layers. It's like that old analogy of characters where he's peeling back the onions. Just tons and tons of layers. And maybe it ended up that CM Punk and that waitress fell in love. Maybe we'll tell that story down the line. But the idea is that you don't know where anything's going to happen.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about CM Punk?
I don't know who you're talking about.
Now, elsewhere on the embellish category, you write dig, and that's in all capital letters, D-I-G, for information to enhance storytelling. Check WWE.com before the show. Read the WWE magazine.
Yes.
It's a good website, okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a good magazine. But how can they...
I wouldn't say that, but used to be.
You really think those are the best resources for your announcers to turn to for information, to enhance storytelling?
That's where our universe lies. Saying everything lives within that. I mean, you certainly don't want to rely on those dirt sheets and those websites for the quote unquote insider information. Everything that our announcers need to know about our characters, about our events coming up, about behind the scenes action happens on WWE.com and in the WWE magazine.
Announcer intensity is another segment here. You tell the announcers, you have high spots too. Use
Yes.
intensity in telling the story of a match. Tone and inflection are more important than volume. Okay,
Yes.
what does that mean? That announcers have high spots?
You don't want to blow your fucking wad is what it means. Pick your spots. Pick your high moments. Don't just blow your wad because somebody does a suplex off the top rope to the floor, or that somebody jumps off a ladder and crashes through 4 tables. May be cool, but it might not be the right moment for you to go, holy shit.
Don't scream. All capital letters.
No.
It says, we are all guilty of it from time to time. There's nothing more annoying than to listen to an announcer scream at you for an hour. It distracts from the in-ring product. Don't equate screaming with excitement, it says. How are your announcers supposed to communicate, excitement if they cannot scream? Like, isn't that the...
Look at that. I was an announcer for years here. I'll show you right now. Wow. That was exciting. See that? I was full of orgasmic enjoyment.
Really?
The feeling that I was having right now, like I just gotten a blowjob from Trish Stratus. That's the elated feeling that I had coming from my gut. I didn't scream. I didn't go crazy. I wouldn't do, why the fuck do you think JR doesn't work for you anymore? Why do you think I'll never hire that Tony Shaffuckin-Vani? All they do is scream, my God, by God, fans, fans, fans. It's bullshit. It's boring. Pisses me off. I want people that trail the middle ground. I don't want dynamics. I want people to just hover around the middle and say, oh yeah, I can relate on all ends. Basically this. I want announcers that are like Jay Leno.
How so?
He's not funny, but he still draws. I don't want you to get too excited. I don't want you to do that because it may make people think that a certain match is better than the one that is actually good.
Now, in a section entitled Layout, you make a statement that we've heard you make before.
Yes.
And I've always wanted the opportunity to ask you about this. Nobody likes someone talking in a movie theater.
Yes.
We make movies.
Yes.
You make movies. I thought you made pro wrestling television shows.
No, we make movies. We do basically like the old 1930s, 40s, 50s, the serials. We'd have to go each week to see the next movie. But we do TV movies. ABC used to do a movie of the week. It was a 2-hour ABC branded entertainment vehicle. And it would be a movie, but it would be on TV. The WWE produces weekly TV movies, just like ABC did. Just we use the same actors as the same characters. It's like the old Flash Gordon serials. Same guy playing Flash Gordon, and we're even 2 hours long, just like your average movie. That Raw and SmackDown. Those are our two brands of entertainment, or two brands of movie. And so, that's the truth. We make, there's drama, there's romance, there's there's thrills, there's action. Movies.
Okay, I don't see how that's a movie, but all right. We'll leave that one alone. Tell stories.
Do you not go to the movies?
Yeah, of course I do, all the time.
Yeah.
I always go to.
How long is a movie?
90 minutes.
Yeah, right. That's what we have. We have 90 minutes of a movie. That's how long Monday Night Raw movie is.
But these are different, different segments, different characters. This is like 10 movies in an hour and a half of wrestling.
Oh, it's an hour and a half. It's a movie. You don't see any 2-hour television shows.
No, see, 3 hours.
Movies are two. Pay-per-views are our epics. It's like we did we did the 10 Commandments, basically. Every month we do the 10 Commandments.
In a section, and we're wrapping up here, entitled Tell Stories.
Yes.
You're right, it's underlined. This is the most important aspect of your job. Tell stories. It says, set the stage before diving into a discussion. Not everyone knows who or what you're talking about. Never assume the viewer watched last week's broadcast. It has all these notes about telling a story. It says this is television, not radio. We don't need to call every move a superstar makes. Tell the audience something they're not thinking. Personal issues are everlasting.
Mm-hmm.
Tell stories. We hear that all the time about the WWE product. What is it? Tell what story? I mean,
what? Tell the stories of the ring.
But
tell the stories of the WWE.
I mean, don't the announcers just kind of
tell the stories that I've written for my superstars?
But don't the stories just get in the way? I mean, can't the announce? I mean, what I'm trying to say is, if the story's good, won't it become evident just by the announcers calling what the wrestlers are doing and saying instead of having to expressly pause and explain everything? Isn't good storytelling, almost by definition, not something that you have to beat somebody over the head with?
Good storytelling is telling a good story. It's a story that never ends. We've been telling this story, this same story, one continuous story, since I took over the WWE from my dad.
Well, so what is that? What is that story?
Story of me. The story of my life. What was, what is, and what should be.
Vince McMahon, it's been a pleasure to go through these notes with you and to better understand, sort of what they tell us about how you see the business. I want to close with this. It's in capital letters. Announcers are not the stars. Are not the stars is in all capital letters. Why is it important to drill into your announcers that they are not stars? How does that serve any purpose whatsoever?
Because I want them to know where they stand with me. That just like the in-ring talent, they are replaceable. I want to make sure that my announcers know that they need to constantly be working and be working harder and striving for that brass ring, because they mean nothing to me on any other level than their job. I could easily kill all my announcers and find easy replacements on the street. Doesn't matter who they are. They're not the stars, but I want them to keep working to think they're the stars. That's the way it works. But they're all replaceable.
We started by asking you, what is the role of a wrestling announcer on your television show? Mm-hmm. And I ask you to sum it up. We've painted a composite sketch of what the do's and don'ts sort of are. So, what does it mean to be a wrestling announcer to Vince McMahon?
To be a wrestling announcer in the WWE is to be the voice of Vince McMahon.